So in this video, I want to explore the idea that language doesn't just mirror reality, it shapes it. And I'll show you how the words we use can influence the way we experience the world. I'll touch on some fascinating concepts like linguistic relativity and why understanding language as a construct can be transformative for our everyday lives. Hi, my name is Marina. I am a PhD student in the environment humanities, and on this channel I explore how academic concepts like critical thinking, learning, language can be applied to everyday life. So let's start with a simple yet powerful idea. Language, it doesn't just reflect reality, it constructs it. So the words we use are neutral, they are shaped by culture, society, and history, and in turn they shape how we experience the world. In essence, language doesn't just label the world, it actively constructs it. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, or linguistic relativity, argues that the language we speak influences the way we perceive and understand the world around us. It suggests that people who speak different languages can actually experience reality in different ways. So let's look at a few examples to bring this to life. In German, there's not just one word for the end piece of a loaf of bread. There are actually many different terms depending on the region. For instance, the term Stummel is commonly used, but in certain areas you might hear other words like Kanten or Kruste. This linguistic diversity reflects the deep cultural importance of bread in Germany, where it has been a staple food for centuries. Bread is such an integral part of German cuisine that there are over 50 different terms to describe different parts of the loaf, including the end piece. And in some places, different terms for the end piece may even indicate regional pride or a sense of local identity. So why does this matter? The existence of so many terms for something as simple as the end piece of bread demonstrates how language reflects cultural values. In Germany, the language doesn't just describe bread it creates an entire framework for experiencing it. So when people use different words for different parts of the bread, it reveals how they pay attention to the nuances of the food itself. The words Stummel, Kanten, and others might seem trivial on their own, but they indicate a deeper level of appreciation and respect for something so integral to cultural life. Now consider family relationships. In Croatia, there are separate words for uncle depending on whether it's your mother's brother or your father's brother. In English, we lump all uncles into one category. On the surface, this might seem like a simple difference in vocabulary, but it runs deeper. This distinction in Croatian doesn't just serve a linguistic convenience. It reflects the culture's perception of family roles and relationships. By naming these roles differently, it acknowledges the nuanced dynamic that exists between different branches of the family. So this means that when a Croatian speaker thinks about their uncle, they're potentially thinking about a unique relationship that carries different social expectations and emotional connotations, depending on whether it's the mother's or father's side. In English-speaking cultures where the word uncle doesn't make this distinction, we may not consider or emphasize these nuances in the same way. So English speakers may not immediately recognize or categorize the difference in relationships that the Croatian term highlights. As a result, the role of uncle isn't just a generic title, but a specific culturally significant role shaped by the side of the family. Both of these examples show the words we use don't merely describe the world. They create frameworks that influence how we think about it. So when we have different words for things, it alters our mental categorization of those things, and by extension, it changes how we experience and interact with them. These distinctions can lead to notice and value things that might otherwise pass unnoticed, and language then becomes a powerful force in shaping our perception of reality. Now let's talk about a more profound example of how language shapes our experience: trauma. For many people who have experienced abuse or violence, there may not have been a word to describe their experience. For example, women who were in abusive relationships might not have had access to terms like domestic violence or abuse before they became widely recognized. So without those terms, they may not have been able to fully understand or communicate what was happening to them, let alone seek help. In some ways, it does not only not mirror it, but it limits it. So for many people who experience mental health challenges, there may not have been clear terms or a widespread understanding of their condition. For example, people with conditions like depression, anxiety, or post-traumatic stress disorder may not have had access to these terms in earlier times. or even in some cultures today. So without the language to describe their experience, they may have been labeled simply as weak or crazy, and the lack of terminology for these conditions can prevent people from recognizing their symptoms, speaking up, seeking help, or finding the proper support. And without these terms, it's difficult to fully understand the root cause of the feelings, let alone address them. So here's the thing, language shapes our reality. If you don't have the words to express something, it becomes difficult to even think about it. It becomes harder to identify your feeling or experiences, which is why a lack of terminology can be so limiting. Whether it's a lack of words for certain emotions or a lack of concepts, language impacts how we categorize and relate to the world. So language is not just a passive reflection of the world. It actively shapes our thought, perceptions, and actions. Whether it's framing our identity, understanding our relationships, or even processing trauma, the words we use can empower or limit us. And by becoming more aware of how language influences our reality, we can begin to shift the way we relate to the world and communicate with others. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How has language shaped your perception of the world? Are there any words or phrases that have had a big impact on how you see yourself or others? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might find it interesting. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.